atmosphere in the background. What more do you want?
That's right, exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
Anyway, here we are.
Yes.
At Infocom, and you've released a report out here.
We have.
What's that about?
So every year around this time we release our latest forecast, industry outlook trends analysis, call it IOTA. Have to have our acronyms, of course, as a tech industry association. But essentially that's the story of the industry. Where's growth coming from? Looking back, looking forward, 5 years. How fast are we going? How big is the market? All that sort of stuff's in that. We work, just a little nod to our partner, we work with a company called Omdia, noted analyst firm that covers all the sectors that are represented by our industry. So we felt that they would make a good partner to help us model that out and to really tell how much is being spent on the technology represented here at Infocom.
What are the main findings you've come across in this latest one? There's so much going on, isn't there?
There is a lot going on.
I mean, how do you assess a market? What questions do you ask?
We start with sort of the basics of, we obviously frame up what do we include in a measurement like that, what product categories, what solution areas, what vertical markets, all of that kind of stuff. We always purposefully draw a very big circle around the industry because we feel it's important to tell the story of adjacents. Where can an integrator, they may not be doing business in, let's say, digital signage today, but they're conferencing today and they want to expand. So we want to tell that story. So one of the things we find is doing that helps you really show, you know what, this area that we may have been working on isn't growing as fast as it was. And these other areas over here really are. To put a finer point on that, we came through the pandemic, everybody was spending on collaboration technologies, adapting to hybrid work, lots of investing more in what we call content production, streaming, really the ability to create video content and reach audiences. That was a lot of investment. Of those two, the one that's held up more through time as we've come out of the pandemic with rapid growth off of a low base is more of that latter, the content production, streaming, and also anything in-person live events, entertainment. Those are now the engines of growth for our industry. And so we're standing next to the sphere, of course, or we can see it from here, and that's just, we kind of view that as kind of the pinnacle the highest level example of that trend. But that's really where growth's coming from. You see it on the show floor a little bit in the technologies, big signs, big audio, all that sort of stuff.
Do you think AV is changing there? We're looking more at what you can do with it and going outside the traditional market of AV into new areas.
I do. It's a great point. I think there's kind of two parts of the market. There's the, how can we scalably roll out technology to solve business problems, like just keeping us collaborating, connecting with our customers, sales, all those sorts of things. But yes, I think on the other end, it's because that can be a very scalable, sort of low margin volume business. And that's where IT plays very strongly. A lot of technologies now are on the network. They need to work well. They need to be affordable, scalable. That's one end. But on the other end, yes, I think it is about what can we do with the technology, almost like an artist would with paint. View the technology as the palette of material that we can work with to create exceptional experiences. As we do that, that is where the real value and margin is for our business. Not that that's easy, right? That takes special skill, it takes vision, it takes creativity, it takes technical know-how to know how the technology can work together well. It takes good partners, vendors, distributor to make that all play out. And it's hard business to win because you've got to demonstrate some of those creative aspects. But I think our challenge as an industry has always been, and now accelerated or even more so, how we can differentiate ourselves with the tech we have. Yeah.
Okay, there are two things I want to ask you. One for the vendors, or one for the industry, and one for the end users, if you like. Mm-hmm. So, what are the takeaways for the industry looking for the next 12 months? What can we inform them about?
Yeah.
They should be. Are they on track with their business? And for the end users, what are their colleagues doing? What are the challenges they're facing?
Yeah, and those are very intertwined. I think, so for the industry itself, with the big challenges over the last, let's call it 18 months, even a little bit before, was supply chain. Just, we've got projects to do. We were talking about that last year, a year ago, certainly very much at Infocom. We've got projects to do, but we can't get product. a lot of that's solved now or mitigated so that that's less of a problem for the integrator community. Things are evening out. But at the same time, integrators, because they had work to do and they were afraid of shortage, they also bought up a lot of stock on several things that they needed for project work. That created a situation where manufacturers were not selling as much because there was a glut of some product in the market while they waited for key components. That created an unevenness. In integrators were growing faster than manufacturers in a lot of categories. That's leveling out now. So we see a more normalized kind of customer demand flows down nicely through the integrator to the manufacturer. So growth gets a little bit more even. The trouble is we've got economic headwinds. We have high interest rates. We have inflation. We've got companies worried about recession. And so you've seen a market situation coming into 24 where people were a little conservative about their investments. Projects slowed somewhat. Demand seemed to be tapering to where we're still talking about growth, but at a much lower rate than what we had seen before. I think that starts to relieve as we go forward, which gets to the end user part of the story. End users invested tremendously during the pandemic to adapt to all the changing world, the changing work modes, the changing engagement. They invested, but now that technology now really needs a refresh. There's a lot of it where they need to now upgrade. Technology's changed. AI is here. Multi-camera, multi-microphone for conferencing. Bigger, better, more, visually compelling display technologies. Direct view LED has come down. So I think they're now ready. The customer's kind of coming back to a reinvestment cycle as we get to the end of 24 and into 25 especially.
Are they savvy enough to know where to go? Are they being led by the technology? Or is it their company requirements leading their decision making?
It's a good question.
A fair question to ask you, really.
No, it's a good one. Yeah, it's a good one. I think that there are some competing interests. So we know that IT is more involved in the decision making. Their way of procuring technology is different than, let's say, maybe AV traditionally would be, meaning that the cost effectiveness, scalability, how well it plays on the network. So I do think technology requirements have shifted a little bit. Plug and play, ease of use, lower cost. So the markets had to respond to some of that. But at the counterpoint is everything we just talked about. It's how you can, I think companies, buyers that are equally concerned about scalability as they maybe are, or maybe more so, concerned about their brand and how technology helps them amplify their brand. It becomes a part of their story. They're looking for quality of experience. They want to differentiate themselves. That is where there's more opportunity to kind of tell a story of, it's not just about the cost, it's about how well it works to fulfill the need of the project. So I think that's playing out as well.
Is AV within a more strategic position within companies? Do you get? These are all unfair questions asking.
No,
really,
that's a good one
subject
too.
to the data, aren't you? But I'm trying to read a bit more into it.
Yeah.
And the impression I get is that there is a certain change occurring where to a traditionally not a great interoperable technology industry is now being forced to be interoperable.
Absolutely.
And part of these major integration and digitization plans, and is being people are thinking differently about what AV technology should be doing and where its next position should be.
Yeah, I like that notion, and I would agree that it's become more strategically required. Excuse me. The pandemic reinforced the notion that technology was crucial to function. It was, in order to continue operating, we had to stand up collaborative tech for remote workforce. It's become a key component of differentiating your live event, your entertainment experience. You see that heavily in, look at the concerts that are kind of rocking the world right now, whether it's Taylor Swift or here at the Dead & Company at the Sphere. Technology is a crucial component of that experience. It's become more intrinsically woven into it. It always was to some degree, but I think the stakes are higher, the scale is higher, the expectation is higher by a customer an ultimate customer. Let's talk about the person coming to our experiences, they have so many choices in media consumption. They can stay home and watch a movie. They can play video games. They can do that on their mobile handset. So in order for us to win their eyeballs, win their time, it has to be exceptional. And I think that's why technology is much more crucial in today's world.
You mentioned AI earlier and everything else, which I always think of a potential infrastructure technology, and AV is a front of camera type stuff. You know, I mean, do you find that AV is becoming more of a centerpiece of technology investment from what the response you've had back, and is it becoming more of a discussion you would more happily have with an IT team? I mean, the banks have got IT. All the guys who used to be AV managers are all IT guys.
That's right, and they have a different approach for sure. Yes, technology has AV especially has a kind of complicated dual role to fill. It's got to provide the wow factor, but it also has to, in some ways, be unobtrusive, invisible, and so not get in the way of the experience. That's very delicate. How do you do that? So on the one hand, it's front and center, it's very visible, but really what is visible should be the experience is the content itself, the music, the movie, the video, whatever it is. That content we want to come through so that the consumer has a good experience. So doing that well requires thinking beyond just, well, cost is important, but how do I really make it, enable it, facilitate it to be transparent? Some of that is even things like AI can help. Certainly there's data back-end optimization that happens. There is also content management systems. AV over IP is a part of that too. How do I get content efficiently transmitted across my endpoints, my user experiences? All of that stuff is a part of what's happening. And I do think we have to certainly acknowledge the progress that's been made on things like AV over IP to route content around has been crucially important to enabling some of these display-rich, speaker-rich environments, because I can more efficiently, I don't have to pull so much cable, right? I can do more with existing infrastructure or dedicated, say, infrastructure.
From a user point of view, do you get the impression that people are looking differently at the technology and doing things that are slightly what they should be doing 10 years ago, in a sense, that they feel the technology can deliver it?
I think
that's a big one, isn't it? Really,
yeah,
I don't get it myself, but I had to ask the question.
I'll take a stab.
I'd like to ask the question.
Yeah, I take the stab that I think the technology evolution's been key as well. I think you can always say, could there be more that we would have done 10 years ago to enable what's possible? But I think the technology's also evolved. Let's look at direct view LED as a technology itself. Virtual production is a thing you'll see here at Infocom. Part of what makes that feasible is pixel pitch. It's got to look real to the camera, and it has to be addressable from a content perspective. So that evolution has created so many things. It's the exosphere. It's when you're inside and you've got the immersive, almost 360 feeling, or at least 180 degree feeling video experience. So, and at the same time, as we just talked about, content itself is more efficiently routed through an AV over IP network, at least in part of it. So those ingredients are what's made it happen. You could argue that the pandemic may slowed things down because we weren't in person. Revenue wasn't there to support investment. No. And so now we're clear of that. And consumers, perhaps tired of being locked up, siphoned away, cordoned away, are now really craving to be out and experiencing.
Well, we found when people were locked up using what we thought were good, solid technology, the technology wasn't delivering. The sort of general overview I get was that stuff we hadn't really reviewed properly just didn't deliver during the pandemic. But now we're looking more closely at the way technology performs, and if it's up to scratch or not. Even the people running AV companies are electronics engineers, people with a different perception, more technically literate.
I would agree.
Now that's not by any means any kind of abusive comment to those previously running AV companies, but you sense a different approach to the way technology is both sold and bought?
I think it's an expectation's been risen, or has come up, yes. During the pandemic, we learned and needed technology that would allow us to easily engage with each other kind of as much as possible, though not fully possible, to replicate an in-person kind of exchange, the true organic, experience of talking and being around each other. So we raised our expectations and the technology evolved. And so now we're coming back to office, and some of that we gained by the technology that allows us to connect, we expect to also then have in the office. We no longer tolerate the bad meeting experience with the head at the front of the room on the big screen and everybody sort of not oriented to each other and not even oriented to a camera in a way that makes it feel like when we were at home, where single person, single panel on my screen, I can see them all and they can all participate equally. So our expectations have come up. At the same time, as we talked about, in-home media, whether it's streaming and home theater and digital display and all that, we're now wanting something compellingly different to get us out and spending. And I think largely the content community is delivering on that through experiences for sure. So I think it's a raised bar overall, all the way through the channel.
Very good, thanks, Sean.
You're very welcome. Pleasure.